This episode is brought to you by Flex Dealer.
The magic of data is not just about personalizing media, not just about getting people on the lot for test drives. This is about building a more tangential and much more direct relationship with your customers.
Hey, welcome back to this episode of the Dealer Playbook. Sitting down with my pal Tim Hayden. He's the CEO of Brain Trust Partners. We're going to talk about how your dealership can experience transformative growth by understanding your business's DNA. Stay tuned. Tim, thanks so much for joining me on the Dealer Playbook.
Hey, it's great to be here, Michael. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited about this conversation in particular because, gosh, I can think clearly of several conversations I've had probably just in the last month with client partners of my own where we're trying to solve complex problems and they say, oh, well, I can't because so-and-so X, insert issue with so-and-so here, or that's a delicate situation because they might perceive this as what, and I got to be honest, the Italian in me says, just get rid of them all.
Yeah.
Get rid of all these jokers.
Right.
And then there's that piece in my heart that's like, no, we must all experience growth together. I was on your website over at braintrust.partners. I go to the what we do section, and I love this statement. We help you understand your business DNA. Now, for those that are wondering, well, what are you talking about, business DNA? Tell me a little bit about what you mean by that, and maybe how you even got into this space to begin with.
Sure. No, I think when we say DNA is to understand that no two businesses are the same. We like to, kick best practices in the balls because the bottom line is, if I can say that, I'm sorry, but to think that someone else outside your business can tell you what to do with your business, right? That's just not right, because first and foremost, the customers that you have and their behavior, your employees, the brands that you sell, your workflows, your decision-making processes, those are all unique to your business, right? And for us, it's data that really is the signal that helps us understand all of that. I got into this as a recovering mobile strategist. Back in 2011, I was helping Hilton and Starbucks build mobile apps that would transform their businesses. Everything from being able to check into your hotel room and use your phone as a key to get in your room, to hiring a few thousand new baristas to handle all the remote orders for coffee. Understanding holistically how technology could change a business. That was 15 years ago, right? Just about. And where we are today is in this fascinating world of data management and artificial intelligence and automation and customers who are being served by companies like Amazon in a immediate, contextually relevant way. So why can't we do that in any other vertical? Why can't we do that in the car business per se? And that's really where this is. And we can unpack this a little bit more, Michael, but you're familiar with the notion of customer data platforms helping with performance marketing.
Yeah.
You're familiar with probably data warehousing, and you're probably familiar with obviously the most recent news where a single point of failure in an industry can paralyze thousands of businesses in that industry. So we don't just need a backup of data. We need data to do something different for us. And by the way, AI, it all runs on data. So it all comes together. And if you think about it in that unique way, I try to tee it up at first. It's going to be unique. It's going to be your own flavor if you do it right.
Yeah. What's interesting about this, it reminds me of, oh gosh, I wish I remembered her name. She might still be, we could look it up, the CEO of IBM on stage saying, and this was probably about 10, 12 years ago, if I remember correctly, that data is the new natural resource.
It is.
And what I find intriguing about this, I wrote a couple of things. First, mobile key. That's kind of cool being involved with that with Hilton, because I use that all the time. This idea, though, that at some point, someone somewhere at Hilton had to say, wait a minute, we need to invest in what's coming. And that's going to have a very real price tag attached to it.
Right.
And the thesis is, if we invest now and we get ahead of this and we think about these data points and what we're collecting already and how to improve the experience, that there will be a payoff. But there is that initial sticker shock investment. Do you see that? How do you overcome that hurdle of what is it going to cost to invest in the future for a car dealer who knows that there's data happening all around them and that probably could help them improve? But you and I know the car business. They're going, man, this is an expensive sounding conversation. How do you reconcile that?
Well, you bet it is. I mean, it's there's no doubt about it. We won't even get to it on this show, or maybe not this episode at least. But there's this other thing that's now lurking as there's more AI and machine learning baked into these systems, where the price tag goes up because of compute power, right? Because of the amount of actual veritable power you need, the server class, the processing class that you want to be in to run your business in real time, per se, or more immediate, right? Or with more and richer insights.
Yeah.
So as you look at that, first and foremost is what you and I both know is we're talking about retail automotive here. We have to build trust and we have to build confidence with them. We have to shake hands with them. We have to let them know that we're not just a bunch of engineers that have got a piece of software we're trying to present to them. In fact, what makes us different from the software companies themselves is we don't walk in trying to sell software. We walk in trying to understand what the application, what the needs are, what the aspirations and the possibilities may look like. And it's that part of it that allows us to get into modeling of the return on the investment. So if you can look at this simple math of, do I need to invest $250,000 this year from a systems integration standpoint and from a software licensing standpoint to get this thing up and running? And we'll talk about how we do it and how a lot of other people are doing it in the contrast in the two here. But if we're able to model for them to say, your media expense is going to go down by 20% if you do this. Your call times are going to be cut in half. Your bays are going to be full. Your customers from 6-8 years ago that you never, ever call or talk to are going to be woken up by this system, and they're going to be likely and have a higher propensity to buy from you again. Because you overlook that. Not everybody read Carl Sewell's book, right? Not everybody understands customer relationships in this industry. So if we're going to help them make that turn from the high performance marketing transactional side into the customer relationship building side, we're going to also help them understand, what does that mean in terms of monetization and return on the investment as well. You can't really change the physics of the price tag. I mean, it is what it is. The good news is, I guess, the democratization of software like this is spreading, and there are things that have been proven out with Fortune 10, Fortune 500, Global 2000 brands that are now coming in to the car business, and with that, there will be some economies of scale, right? There will be some price tags that I think are going to become more manageable. But the bottom line is what are we going to get out of it, right? What is this actually going to do for us? And how can we calculate what that return is? What is that's time saved, which means that we've got more margin now because we're serving more customers and we're doing so more fluidly, or that we're selling more, which all car dealers want to know. Are we moving more metal, more units? Are we working the auctions and and having things on the lot for fewer days. All of these things, we want to get into those conversations with them because data is what will be the thing that leads them to the answers on how they make those dials move from left to right.
Hey, does your marketing agency suck? Listen, before we hop back into this episode, I know you know me as the host of the Dealer Playbook, but did you also know that I'm the CEO of Flex Dealer, an agency that's helping dealers capture better quality leads from local SEO and hyper-targeted ads that convert? So if you want to sell more cars and finally have a partner that's in it with you that doesn't suck, visit flexdealer.com. Let's hop back into this episode. I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the key data points that you look at that just jump out at you that are maybe common across the board. But before we get there, I want to go back to something you said earlier, which I think is so important. And it's a message that, we really try and push out there through our podcast. This truth that no two businesses are the same.
Right.
Each have different people from different walks of life, different experiences, different levels of wisdom, experience, et cetera, that all have an impact on how decisions are made or how circumstances are viewed. And I think about this in terms of my own business, and I look at my team and the experiences we both have in our individual lives, the experiences we have as a team working in a company to solve problems, and the different factors. I mean, just the miscellany of factors that go into our DNA and how we maneuver. And the reason I feel like I want to emphasize this and get your take on it a little bit here is because if we were to go online right now, within probably 2 or 3 short scrolls on our Facebooks or LinkedIns, you and I could find people who perpetuate absolutes. I'm the hardest worker here. I work longer than everyone else. If you want success, you must insert bold statement here, polarizing statement here. And I have a problem with those types of sentiments because while there are, I think, true principles in what they say, effort and cause and effect and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
It's void of the empathy and understanding of individual circumstances, both as human beings and as organizations. If you say to me, Michael Cirillo, that I must wake up before everyone and I must go to sleep before everyone, and if I don't, I will not be a successful business owner. Well, guess what? That's going to fly right over my head because I've had enough experience seeing people I love whose marriages fell apart because of it.
Amen.
Who don't know their children because of it, who have lost all sense of meaning in their life and don't experience joy, who don't have a good quality of life. And for somebody who is comfortable enough to admit that I want to be known for the quality of life I lived, not for the hours that I put on the busy badge.
Right.
But at one point in my journey, Tim, those kinds of statements did affect me. I did become a Gary Vaynerchuk zombie who was like, I must work 18 hours a day or else I won't be successful. Right.
Yeah.
I did subscribe to a lot of the, different thought processes of the influencers out there. And I think there's a lot of people listening and in our industry, I'm sure you would agree that also believe that, I must do what this sales trainer said or else we will absolutely not achieve success.
Yeah.
And then I think, well, as an organization, did you guys even define what success looks like for you? Or are you just subscribing to what the regional NADA data said makes up a successful dealership?
Yeah. What your composite said about
what your composite said?
Yeah.
So I'm curious your take on this, and then maybe tie that into some of the key data points that you're intrigued by that you see as a common, there's a commonality here. If you looked at this aspect of your DNA, you would start to see growth. You would see transformative power happening within your dealership.
You bet. I mean, I'm gonna end on customer lifetime value here in a second, and how that can be bespokely defined, business by business, or even departmentally within a business, right? Different people measure success in different ways. They measure value in different ways. But to the points that you were just making, I mean, I have Instagram on my phone, but I do not have Facebook on my phone. And I haven't had Facebook on my phone
Bravo.
for 10 years, 10 years, right? I disable almost all of my notifications on my phone. And my 13-year-old son has never been given a device at a dinner table in his entire life, right? It's because I believe in human-to-human exchanges. I believe in, to your point about having empathy. You didn't go as far as saying it, but you used the word polarized, or somebody making a polarized statement. If we really thought about it, if we really went out and asked 2,000 Americans where they are on the political spectrum, I bet you 1,998 of them would probably be pretty close to the center. But the only thing that moves us in the media is the extreme. And the only thing that moves us to go to the polls or to claim that we are this or we are that is extreme content, or it is polarizing, right? It's making you either be one side of the coin or the other. Mm. And honestly, I just think another way of talking about DNA, is I used to talk about it when I was a mobile strategist, was think about it back in the day of iPods and iTunes. No two humans on the planet had the same personal playlist, right? We all had our own mix of different. I had the Gypsy Kings, followed by AC/DC, followed by Def Leppard, followed by Eric Clapton, and then Big Head Todd and the Monsters, right? I mean, just, for me, it's my mix. It's what the whole mixtape before that was all about, right? You had your mixtape, right. And that's what people have in the data, that over the last 12 to 15 years, as they've digitized their business, they've started to pull in information that becomes unique to their business, right? It becomes unique to their processes and to their methodologies and how they operate the business, the media they bought, and the types of customer and employee experiences that they manufacture. So when you think about, let's bring it back to customer lifetime value, is one of the easy exercises is looking a dealer principal in the eyes and saying, can you tell me who your 100 most valuable customers are today? I don't qualify what I mean as value. I just say, can you answer that question for me? And 9 times out of 10, they look back at me and they say, probably not 100. But what I can do is I can tell you the 10 to 20 families that buy vehicles from us every 18 months. And saying, of course you can, because they're in here, they're big families, they're influential in their neighborhoods, and they're buying a vehicle from you every 2 years. Of course you know that. Did you know that probably we can help you find another 150 people to call tomorrow that bought something from you every 6 or 8 years? And it could have been just an oil change or an oil filter, because right now, the CDP that you're investing in is handling your marketing and your media, but it doesn't tell you anything about what's happening at the parts desk. And what I'll do is I'll combine all this data to help you understand that holistic value of the customer and do it in a way that shows you things you've never seen before, that shows you a perspective and a analytical, both quantitative and qualitative view of who your audience is, who's already bought from you. And, perhaps we can go to the whiteboard and talk about what you'd like to generate as the value calculation, but I'm going to show you all the ingredients that will help you inform that. So it's, I think that's one of the fascinating things about the practice of master data management. It's the practice of being able to pull together disparate information from disparate sources that are a blend of customer behavior, customer preferences, and business intelligence. If you're bringing these things together, there's technology out there today that helps you match it together, overlay it with each other, and analyze it and show you things and give you the actionable direction on what to do next, even better than that. So, there's a whole lot that happens, and you and I both know this. Just when you get different thinking people in the same room over a cold beer, the same thing happens, right? We start having the time of our lives because we're not all talking about the same thing. We're engaging in some spirited discourse on a casual level, right? It's not different than what's happening with the technology we use.
Boy, do I love that you use the word ingredient, because I think about it this way. Not all too dissimilar to baking or baking a cake. Let's use baking a cake because I love cake. You start baking a cake successfully starts with one ingredient. You brought up oil change or bought a filter. And I think it's easy for us to go, but they bought that 3 years ago. Okay, but does that mean they're not a customer of yours then? Or what does that mean? Well, if we relate that to baking a cake, for those that are really curious where the heck I'm going here, sometimes you walk into your pantry and all you see is a bag of chocolate chips.
Right.
And that inspires you to say, I'm going to bake a cake. And so then what you do is you continue to pursue out the other ingredients that will help you bake a cake. Well, in this case, someone who bought an oil filter from you 3 years ago might be the first ingredient you need to re-engage, like you were saying, to pursue other ingredients to bring them all together so that eventually, once applied in the right sequence, to your point, you end up with the outcome, the desired outcome, i.e. success that you wanted.
Right.
And you're talking about, I love that you're talking about see, I'm not a baker. I like to be the recipient of baked goods, but I know enough to say, well, successful baking or cooking or insert any other discipline here starts with a single ingredient and moves on to the next ingredient. And those ingredients must be applied in the right sequence in order to end up with your desired outcome. In the same way that here we spend money to acquire the oil change customer or the parts customer. Then they transact and we write them out of our minds like they're not a customer anymore because we've gotten so focused on, unless they are signing something today, they're not a customer anymore.
Correct.
And we need to be, to your point, more focused on, no, that was the first ingredient to lifetime value.
That's right.
And if I pursue the next ingredient to lifetime value and apply it in the right sequence and on and on and on, here I have now a relationship with someone who may have just started as an air filter purchase, who's now bought 7 vehicles from me over the last 15 years, who's gotten all of those vehicles serviced, who's referred me to their loved ones, who's brought their kids to buy from me, on and on and on. So that's
on and on.
I see the affirmation here. I'm going down the right path.
I think you are. I mean, this is what I used to say about compelling content on a mobile phone. You increase your trains, planes, and T-ball games quotient, meaning that if you can just get people to pull their phone up and say, "Oh my God, you got to see this," right? Or I just read this. Here, listen to this. Can I read this to you? I mean, if to do that right now, you have to have intelligence. You have to, and I mean this in terms of that which lives in your systems. You have information about your customers that can make you much smarter about how to show up different and to show up more frequently in terms of your outreach. And I'll digress real quick. On 2 fronts, you were talking about baking a cake, and one of the things about finding the ingredients and making something of what you have, right? That's different than just saying, I want a burger or I want pizza. No, I got what I got, and I'm going to make something of it, right? For the listeners, if they go to YouTube and they look up Reckless Kelly or the Braun brothers, Braun, the brothers that actually started Reckless Kelly, they have a little sideshow that they did for many years called What You Got. And it was all about them coming home after a gig and finding things in the fridge and making something with whatever they had. Just a digression there, but we're in Texas. You and I are in Texas. I grew up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I say this when I tell this story when I speak to 20 groups quite often is my parents always had a Lexus or a Cadillac in the garage, and it came from one place. It came from Sewell, right? And it didn't just come from Sewell. It came from the same person at Sewell. For 15 years, this one person was the person who would call, and I had to pick up the phone with the wire to the wall, right? And I had to pick up, say, hello, and say, hey, is this Timmy? I said, yes, it is. And they said, was your dad around? Tell him it's, wasn't Carl, but, this so-and-so, can I talk to your dad? I said, sure. Go get my dad in the garage. Hear my dad say something. He's like, sure, we'll be here. Sure enough, Lexus LS 400 is brought over to the house, and he's like, hey, want to take it for a spin? It was about the fact that there was more put into the relationship. Right. A lot of people in the car business have read Carl Sewell's book. A lot of people know what I'm talking about here. That's what these new technologies are meant to do, is to help you get back to the point where you actually have got a baseball card for every customer that you can flip over, and you can see not only what they're hitting right now, but what they hit last season, and make a better decision on how you want to call them and what you want to say to them, right? And how you want to serve them, or what you want to tell them or talk to them about. That's what the magic of data is. Not just about personalizing media, not just about getting people on the lot for test drives. This is about building a more tangential and coherent, much more direct relationship with your customers. I think that's what it's about, and it's about baking a cake. Absolutely, it's about understanding the chemistry that's involved. That, quite honestly, maybe no two cakes are the same. I don't know.
Ooh. Okay. Well, as somebody who's worked hard for these bingo arms, I will tell you, no two cakes are created. This has been a delight, Tim. I mean, we could go on and on. I love this topic. I love the idea of experiencing transformation by being in the know.
That's right.
This idea of that we're all taught as children that knowledge is power. I believe knowledge is power when you know what to do with it. And
that's right.
That's what I'm really understanding from you. As we wind down, how can those listening and watching get in touch with you?
Well, if you're on the X, if you're on Twitter, I'm the Tim Hayden there. I don't do a whole lot professionally on Facebook or Instagram, but our website, braintrust.partners, is the place where we do it all. We've got a few podcasts that we've started and stopped, and we'll start a new one, or that's where it'll be. But our blog and a lot of our, I would say, I hate to call it thought leadership, but our intellectual property you can find there. And also, if menus are what you want, you can find some of the things we do from a service and from a technology standpoint.
I love it. Tim, thanks so much for joining me on the Dealer Playbook podcast.
You got it, Michael. Thanks for having me, and hope we can continue this sometime soon.
Absolutely. Hey, thanks for listening to the Dealer Playbook podcast. If you enjoyed tuning in, please subscribe, share, and hit that like button. You can also join us and the DPB community on social media. Check back next week for a new Dealer Playbook episode. Thanks so much for joining.